In Kansas, a massive tornado forms.
It took over the whole sky. Like, you knew by seeing that there was something bad in there.
In nearby Dodge City, 45 miles to the west of the tornado's path, single mom Erin Jones is having a night out with friends.
She liked to dance. They danced a few times. Just having a good time.
There's absolutely no reason to think that anything bad is going to happen.
There was burn marks on the curtain. A gunshot had gone through.
Every industry has a bad apple, and we had one.
There is no way anyone could have ever predicted that this would be her last night out.
Friday night, I remember driving home and seeing this huge black cloud to the east of Dodge City. We're in Tornado Alley. We knew that there was, storms in the sky.
It was raining, but everybody was on the watch because with tornadoes, obviously, they can turn and, come towards you.
We're out in the middle of nowhere. Tornadoes are expected, thunder, lightning, severe thunderstorms, hail. So it's nothing out of the ordinary. It doesn't stop people from going out and doing what they want to do if they have plans.
As the weather outside takes a dramatic turn, Vanessa Feldman and her best friend and fellow single parent, 31-year-old Erin Jones, finalize their plans for the evening.
I met Erin October of 2006 when I started working at the bank. She was a teller, same position that I was in. She was very friendly, just loving, fun to be around.
She had her 2 kids, and she doted on them quite a bit. Even after she had a divorce, she kind of used that as her strength and became a really good single mom.
Undeterred by the gathering storm and keen to let their hair down, the 2 friends head into Dodge City.
It didn't seem initially like it was going to be something out of the ordinary or potentially catastrophic. And so here's a rare opportunity. Her kids are going to be with her ex-husband.
Erin and I did not have our children that night. We decided we'd go out. We had the opportunity to go watch a basketball game.
So she goes to basketball game, the Legends team, which is kind of a minor league basketball team in Dodge City. She had been talking to one of the players. He had gotten tickets for her to come to the game. They were initially going to meet up at the Latino bar. They drive by there after the game. It's super crowded. She texted and said, "We're going to head over to this bar," which is the one that has the big dance floor, and they decided they were going to perhaps try to meet up later.
Central Station had a dance floor, music, some pool tables. I believe they even had a menu for food.
It was basically an old rail car that had turned into a bar, dance place. And it was not uncommon for them to spend all night, not necessarily drinking, but just going there, dancing, having, a nice time. She loved music and anything to do with music, and that included dancing. So that would have been a very fun night for her.
Outside, though, the storm has become an unstoppable force, a spiraling column of wind exceeding 200 miles an hour, spinning down what Kansans call Tornado Alley.
It becomes increasingly apparent as the night goes on that this is a storm that is once in a century. It's a huge tornado.
And for emergency services, all resources are in use, fixed on the approaching storm.
They would have been talking about it. Hey, beware of this, be looking for this. I think they get some special weather alerts.
Meanwhile, at Dodge City's busiest nightclub, Erin catches a sight of her ex-boyfriend, police officer Chris Teja, who's out drinking with his friends.
She had noticed that Chris was across the way, and we just kind of talked about him for a minute, and she said, he's got to go do his thing. I've got to do my own thing. We're not together. We could sit at the table with a group of friends and have a drink and just have a good time. That's when we seen that Jason was there. Jason came up, spoke to Erin. Erin and Jason were friends. Jason liked to dance, she liked to dance. So a lot of it was country music, fast dancing, all the little twirling. I don't remember any slow, real intimate type of dancing going on. It was just, they were having a good time being dance partners.
While Erin carries on dancing, her ex-boyfriend Chris Teja is watching.
He was upset. He was pissed off. But they were able to calm him down and divert his attention away from that.
She's out to have a good time, out to dance, out to have a few drinks, out to meet friends and socialize. There's absolutely no reason to think that anything bad is going to happen. So the tornado ended up missing Dodge City and hit about 45 minutes away in this small community called Greensburg. And it essentially wiped out this community. It literally was there 1 minute and almost completely gone the next.
Nothing was left. Several people lost their lives. Dodge City was part of the rainy part of the storm, but then most of the damage was with Greensburg.
Emergency services from Dodge City begin responding en masse to the disaster.
I would say 80% of our force got called and went to assist.
Greensburg wasn't that far away, that you didn't know somebody or have somebody or know somebody that knew somebody that lived there, had family there, friends there. In Southwest Kansas, you come together, you help each other. Small towns combine, even though we're rivalry in sports, we come together to help each other whenever that need is there. And so that night and that following days, it was kind of that feeling around Greensburg.
Dodge City police officers, as many as possible, were diverting what their normal duties were and heading over to Greensburg to see if they can help. All except for Chris Teja, who was a patrol officer and a member of the Dodge City Department, who had taken the day off and did not respond to what was going on.
I was a friend of his. There were several of us at the police department that he hung around with, and I was one of them. He was supposed to work that night, and he took the night off and met up with some friends and went out to the bar.
We weren't at Central Station very long, and then she noticed that Chris was there as well. He was at the other side of the room.
She was uncomfortable about it. At one point, she and Vanessa talked about leaving.
She wasn't sure if he would start something.
She was a really independent, strong person. She was like, no, I'm not gonna leave the bar just because I see my ex-boyfriend here. You know, I can have a good time. I'm not doing anything wrong.
She didn't want to dance with him, didn't want to talk to him, had no desire to have any type of interaction with him. She wasn't mean about it. She just said, we've got to go our own ways, and I'm happy that he's doing what he's doing, and I'm gonna have my fun. He had a drink and he was with a group of friends. We were just having a good time, laughing, conversating, dancing, listening to music. And then it all just kind of went downhill from there.
He saw Erin at the bar with another guy, and it upset him enough that he smashed his beer bottle on the floor.
She was enjoying her newfound freedom of being a single mom, recently divorced, learning what that new life is going to be like, discovering new things, and just enjoying the time that she had. And unfortunately, that didn't end well because of Chris.
In Dodge City, single mum Erin Jones is on a night out with her best friend and co-worker Vanessa Feldman. Also out that night is Erin's ex-boyfriend, police officer Chris Tehar.
I was the victim witness coordinator at the Ford County Attorney's Office. I knew Chris as a Dodge City police officer, and I worked with Chris in that capacity in my work employment at the time. He was nice, he was cordial, he was easy for me to get along with.
He was reserved, he was quiet a lot, but at times he could be outgoing. He seemed like he was a likable guy, as most cops that we hire are.
Chris Tehar, who's originally from neighboring Oklahoma, is a police officer in his early 30s.
He started at the police department as a records clerk and then transferred into the patrol division. He played in a band with a couple of other officers who are also friends of mine.
Chris Tehar's band is considered the most popular local rock group in Dodge City.
He was the bass player of the band. They were wildly popular in Dodge City. They played frequently, and they drew fairly large crowds.
Chris Tehar is the 33-year-old police officer. At this point in his life, he is really looking to settle down. I think he realizes he's getting older, he's kind of settled in his career, and he has decided that he is ready to get married and start a family. And when he met Erin, he felt like he had found the person that he wanted to do this with.
I do know that another officer introduced Chris to Erin. I heard that he thought that they would make a good couple, and that's why he introduced them.
She met up with him or went and watched his band play a time or two in January. They started dating just shortly after. I know she did spend a lot of time with him. There were a lot of text messages, phone calls, but I think she was enjoying it at first. They were doing pretty much everything together, but I know that Chris also slowly started moving his items into her house within the first few weeks.
Chris Tehar starts taking those steps independently of Erin. He starts leaving things at her house, bringing a guitar over, inviting himself places, and she's not only confused by this, she's increasingly uncomfortable with the things that he's doing, because it's almost like what she wants isn't a factor for him.
He seemed to be clingy or always right at Erin's side, always right there involved, needed to be there. And I think a lot of the times she just felt smothered. She just felt that he was being way too needy in the relationship, and she wasn't prepared for that type of relationship.
It almost seems as if Chris Teja had made this decision to get married and settle down almost independently of any relationship. And then when he meets Erin, it's like, okay, I've picked you as the person to fulfill this role for me.
She took a vacation, and she was hoping that taking a vacation would reset everything, get them out of their day-to-day life, and just go have fun and see where things could go from there.
She was going with the kids, and she hadn't planned on him coming, but he self-invited himself. She kind of complained that he didn't even chip in cost-wise. He paid for a tank of gas. You know, when you got kids and you're a single mom, you're trying to make ends meet, and someone kind of invites themselves along, you think they would split some costs, and he didn't even offer that. So that kind of angered her.
I think that weekend really might have been the final straw for Erin. I'm not crazy about this guy. This is not going anywhere. And as a matter of fact, his lack of respecting my boundaries is a deal killer for me. And so she comes back, and on April the 9th, she sends him an email. And in that email, she essentially says, this isn't gonna work out. I'm ending the relationship. And for Chris, he was, at least in his words, completely blindsided. It's late at night, and Chris Teja comes over to her house, doesn't knock on the door. He uses the garage code that he knew to let himself in. He goes into Erin's office, and she is completely shocked, and I would imagine terrified, to see him standing in her office doorway. He initially talks about the fact that he came to get some of his stuff, but he also says, I'm not leaving until I find out why you're ending the relationship.
I said, what happened? She said, I can't tell you. Did he threaten her? Did he threaten her kids? Did he threaten her family? Did he say, if you're not gonna be with me, you're not gonna be with anybody? Did he physically abuse her? Did he sexually abuse her that night? The only thing she would tell me is it was the scariest night of her life and she couldn't talk about it.
He does eventually leave, but I think that is such a huge red flag. It's a home invasion, essentially. He's coming into your home without being invited, and that's super scary.
What little she would even tell Vanessa was that she had to keep their blinds closed because there was times where he would call her and know where she was in the house.
She was paranoid. I'm just searching my house, searching the closets, search everywhere to make sure nobody's in my house, is what she would tell me.
Erin's friends suggest she take a restraining order out against Teja.
Her response was, he's a police officer, what are they going to do? She didn't think anything would happen because he does have a badge, he does have a gun, he has that uniform, they're not gonna do anything.
So in Dodge City, police officers are viewed as good people who are almost like demigods. They're people who are just special in some way. I think that would have influenced Erin Maybe you have this kind of brotherhood among police officers who might protect each other, but the community might be more likely to support a police officer if there's a complaint that's been filed.
We had a jury trial together. And when I say together, so I would have been the victim witness coordinator, he would have been one of the law enforcement officers involved. He wasn't doing well. He had had a breakup, and these were all things that during those day or two that we spent at this jury trial, he shared with me, which was uncommon because we didn't really have a personal relationship, which I knew that if he was sharing this with me, it was very bothersome to him.
The Thursday before the Greensburg tornado hit, Chris and I had lunch together. It was clear to me that he was upset about breaking it off with Erin. And he was back living at his apartment.
It was not an ending that Chris wanted or appeared to have wanted at the time. My understanding is he was ready to maybe get a little bit more serious with Erin. And when that relationship didn't work out, he took it pretty bad.
Chris was a friend. I never in a million years would you have convinced me that I would end up being involved in a case that involved a fellow officer being an actual suspect of a homicide.
In Kansas, a powerful tornado narrowly misses Dodge City, but devastates the nearby town of Greensburg. Dozens are injured, 10 lives lost, and emergency services from across the county are rushing to the scene. All except Officer Chris Teja, who's drinking at the same bar as his ex-girlfriend Erin Jones. She's dancing and catching up with a male friend.
He gets incredibly angry to the point where he smashes a beer bottle and breaks it. And his friends are concerned about how upset he is, to the point that they all decide to go and leave the bar at this point, just to prevent him from having to continue to watch Erin dance with other people.
What I think happened is he was probably so enamored with the idea of having a wife and kids that when it broke off, maybe he still had hopes of getting back with her. And then when he saw her with another guy at the bar, he let his emotions get the best of him.
It's now the early hours of Saturday morning and the end of Erin and Vanessa's night out. The two friends leave the club and drive back to Erin's house, where they turn on the television to watch the news.
So we pull into her garage, the garage door closes. We go in and just kind of watch the weather, see the tornado, see what damage has happened. We opened another drink and just kind of sat in her computer room and was just having that girl time, that girl talk. We knew that the tornado is going on in Greensburg.
I remember watching the news and hearing that the tornado hit Greensburg and stepping out on my porch and looking in that direction. You can't see it that far away, but just looking in the sky to know that that's what just happened.
Instead of staying the night at Erin's, Vanessa decides to head home. They agree. They'll meet for lunch the next day.
That day, Dad had tried calling her and couldn't reach her, which was not normal. Erin was supposed to call Vanessa, and she didn't. And so Vanessa was trying to call her over and over, couldn't get a hold of her.
She didn't answer. I thought that was kind of weird.
By 12:30, she's becoming concerned. And so she drives over to see what's going on. And she doesn't see anything initially. She knocks on the door, nobody answers. And she says, yeah, this is not right. And so she decides to walk around to the back.
So when I walked around the corner on the side of the garage, it was breezy that day. The gate swung open, which was very alarming to me because she had just told me, I don't use that gate. It doesn't close well. It's very hard to lock. I don't use it. I got real scared at that point because I knew this is not right. And I noticed that it was the glass door that went into Erin's bedroom that was broken. So at that point, I ran back out.
Shaken by what she's seen, Vanessa makes an emergency call to Dodge City Police.
I was actually standing in the dispatch center talking to the dispatcher that took that call. And I didn't like the sound of that. And I had the dispatcher dispatch 2 of my officers.
They came and found that the back door was deadbolted. There was burn marks on the curtain. A gunshot had gone through.
When I got there, I went back to the backyard. I saw the broken glass. I walked in and saw Erin on the bed. And that's when I noticed the trauma to the back of her head. Then I told him, I said, okay, well, this is a homicide, so we need to get out and rope off the scene. I pulled Vanessa aside. First, I told her that her friend was deceased, and I asked her if she knew of anybody that would want to hurt her.
To actually hear somebody tell me that she's not alive, it just, the emotions that ran through my body was just unexplainable. I felt like my legs wanted to give out.
She said she had an ex-boyfriend who was a cop. And I said, with what agency? And she said, with you guys. His name is Chris something. And my heart just sunk because then I knew who we were talking about. I was almost physically sick because I knew that she was referring to Chris Teja, Officer Chris Teja. And so I knew he would be a prime suspect just because of his relationship with Erin. I had to gather myself, and I took a few moments sitting there in my squad car. He's going to be a prime suspect, but, he's innocent until we find out otherwise. And that's the way I was able to calm myself down.
I was living in Denver at the time, and it was late afternoon, early evening. I remember vividly, we get the call, and it was from my dad's phone. So I thought, oh, it must be Dad. And it was the Gray County Sheriff. He said, I'm sorry, Erin has been killed. And I remember yelling over and over, no, you are wrong. She's not dead. No, you're wrong. Over and over.
In Dodge City, officers from the KBI, the Kansas Bureau of Investigation, pay Chris Tehar a visit.
So Saturday afternoon, this would have been 4 o'clock in the afternoon, the KBI went to his apartment and they confronted him just as he was walking out of his apartment.
Initially, when KBI questions Chris Tehar, he says that he had nothing to do with it, he wasn't there, he was asleep. They end up finding his gun, finding some other evidence. At that point, he begins to say things such as, I thought about taking revenge on her, but I didn't take revenge on her.
Tehar agrees to take a lie detector test, set to take place the following day.
He's a no-show. And at that point, they realize that they don't know where he is. He's essentially skipped town. And they don't know for a few days, have no idea where he is until they get a call from police in Colorado who have arrested him for stealing a car.
He was out of gas in his car and he was parked at a hotel somewhere in Denver. And someone started their Hummer to let it warm up and he was out of gas. So he jumped into the Hummer and took off with it. But Hummers have OnStar navigation, and the owner was able to use OnStar to track the vehicle. And Colorado Highway Patrol got into a pursuit with him. And he ended up wrecking out the Hummer in a field, and he was captured.
And it's at this point, when they capture him, he tells them he's wanted for murder in Kansas.
In Denver, on Interstate 70, murder suspect police officer Chris Tehar has crashed a stolen car after a high-speed pursuit by police.
You know, the red flags were going up left and right. You know, him skipping out on the lie detector test, stealing the car, getting in a chase. It wasn't looking good, and I was coming to the realization that we might actually have a murderer here.
Officer Chris Tehar is arrested and taken for questioning.
He made the claim that he only intended to scare her.
When I pointed the gun, when I realized that it was a blind shot, because I couldn't even see through the blinds, I decided to lower a gun. I meant to lower the gun down and the round went off.
He certainly knew how to handle the weapon. So when I heard from the investigation team that he said or admitted that he was just trying to scare Erin, not kill her, I was like, that didn't make any sense because he knows how to handle a gun. He knows all the bad things that can happen.
Chris, you're a police officer. You know how to control a weapon. I have a hard time believing it just went off. You've been around guns a long time. They don't just go off.
He had hunting weapons. Again, I treated that as another red flag.
He said he lowered the gun, it went off accidentally, which is bull. As a police officer, you are trained so well in handling a firearm that you just do it naturally. Only a monster would then say, no, I didn't do it. It had to have been someone else.
I don't think there was a single person who interviewed him who believed it. Number one, because of his experience with guns as a police officer. And number two, the degree of premeditation that went into him going over to this house. He was charged with Erin's murder, and he ended up going to trial.
When they finally caught him and had a court date, I would not allow my parents to see the photographs. She was facing away from the door, and the one shot hit her head. There was absolutely no way she knew. I mean, my parents were distraught, obviously, and I was trying to hold it together for myself, be there for them. They nearly lost me, and 2 months after my car accident, the year before, my brother was killed in a car accident. So to lose my sister after all that, it's just mind-boggling.
Even before we got in there to the courtroom, Erin's dad, he said to me he was so mad at the police. He had to endure the ultimate betrayal by the public trust, you know. I just reached out, I gave him a hug, and just told him that all the cops that were in the room were here for him and his family, not for Chris Teja.
After confessing to a KBI agent that he had shot Erin by accident at trial, he made up kind of a ridiculous explanation that he wasn't in her backyard, that he wasn't there, that he had just driven by there a couple of times, and that in fact, he had just confessed because he wanted to give Erin's family closure. The jury did not buy this one bit.
He knew everyone would be busy with the tornado in Greensburg, and he knew everyone was being called in. So I definitely think he used that as his way to do what he did, and thinking that he could get away with it.
Knowing that Chris left that bar that night, went home, changed into dark clothing, parked a few blocks away, carried his rifle, got into her backyard and sat there and waited for us to arrive. Watched us drive in, close the garage door. Knowing that he was in the backyard that whole time, waiting for me to leave so he could take the life of this innocent mom is heart-wrenching.
I get this image of a hunter, that this is somebody who literally is hunting. It's incredibly premeditated. It's calculated. He's waiting for the right moment to shoot, and then he shoots through glass and hits her in the back of the head.
The silent way that he went about it gives you a very eerie feeling. You chose to lift that gun, and with one shot was able to take the life out of her within seconds.
Only a monster would think that she belonged to him after they had broken up. Only a monster would go home, change their clothes, get their rifle. Only a monster would see that her friend was with her, so he couldn't do anything then. Only a monster would wait that long to shoot her.
In 2008, Chris Teja is sentenced to life in prison.
It may give a little closure, but it doesn't help with any of the pain. You still lose your sister. The kids lost their mother. Her friends lost her as a friend. Co-workers. They all loved her so much. And a guilty verdict doesn't bring her back. And I know Vanessa feels horrible. You know, if hindsight were 20/20, she said she would have stayed the night, but she didn't.
What if I would have stayed? Would he have done it? Maybe he would have just said, I'm gonna go home. I guess we'll never know. I liked that the judge addressed Chris and told Chris that he was basically a disgrace to this community. The judge let him know that because of you, there's a lot of distrust. You're supposed to be protecting people, and here you are killing people.
We got some pretty vile comments from public about us hiring murderers. And of course, we have a legendary lawman image, you know, with Wyatt Earp.
Even now, it just feels so surreal. From that instant, you feel like your life, not just, you know, her life was gone, but any life we had together was just ripped away from us.
I think it was shocking for all of us that worked in the field. I had lots of conversations with Erin's father. He would always describe her as his little red engine, full of life, full of vibrancy. And he wanted her to be remembered like that.
This is how I remember Erin. So beautiful, kind, and loving, and such a great mom to her kids.
I meet the most extraordinary people in the worst of circumstances, and this family was one of those.
You always wonder what she'd be like today. And you really miss that caring person that she was. You really miss the kind nature, the kind voice that she had.
If this interview helps one person that are in any kind of relationship and they're scared, but they think that they can handle it, talk. Say something. Even if it turns out to be nothing, say something. Because my sister would be here right now by my side. She'd have said something.
In 2008, Dodge City police officer Christopher Tehar was convicted for the murder of his ex-girlfriend Erin Jones. Overcome by jealousy after seeing her dance with another man, Tehar shot Jones through her bedroom window, condemning her to her last night out.